Welcome back, MTG Joe here. Today we are going to be looking at the weekly metagame breakdown for the timeless best of one format. It's going to see what's happening in this format and to see there's a couple new combo decks with Baldur's Trade Spy that we'll be covering today. But as always, we get the data from UntappedGG. Companion tool runs alongside Arena's client, tracks users' win rates, aggregates it, gives a bunch of stats. I'll link if you want to use Untapped, the link is in the video description, and I'll paste all these deck lists and timestamp them so you can copy paste however you'd like. So we're going to start off with looking at the popularity of kind of the metagame distribution and then cover a few of the decks. The meta is quite, let's put the kind word, congregated, concentrated. There's not much diversity, unfortunately, with Modern Horizons and some of the special guests really dictating the power level of the format. Mardu Energy is up to 40% in the format. If we're looking, it's peaked as high as 52% in early January, January 8th. So quite a large portion of the format is in best of one, this Mardu deck. We have Reanimator, kind of all-in Phoenix combo decks at 14, Show and Tell at 8, and then Boros Energy at 5%. So kind of the big players in the format being these right here. So we're going to jump into it. We are going to look down at Mythic Rank for the last week. There's 7,000 games of best of one that were played. Comparatively, for best of three, it is 2,500 in the same period. So a bit of a smaller population. We're actually going to start on this screen with the most played deck, 4-color Show and Tell. When there's the sideboard of best of one, the kind of individual pages get a little messed up on Untapped. But this is still kind of a mix-up. You have the combo variant options here. So you do have the Mastermind's Acquisition to get your combo. You also have the Hullbreaker plan with Waterlogged Teaching to kind of play the fair game plan. One Atraxa, one Hullbreaker. So the core of this deck is, as always, play Show and Tell, cast Omniscience, and then dig through your deck and kind of win that turn. You could generally win the turn if you have the Mastermind's Acquisition. How the combo works: Masterminds to your sideboard get Masterminds. Masterminds get Scholar of Ages. Scholar of Ages get back both the Masterminds. Masterminds for Approach the Second Sun, then Masterminds for Approach the Second Sun from your deck. This version's got more counter spells in the main: Mana Drain, Spell Pierce, Spell Snare, Veil of Summer to protect against counter mirrors as well. And then like Dig Through Time digs you for stuff, Seek New Knowledge, Demonic Tutor, Born Upon the Winds can let you win at instant speed through Bowmaster. And then this version's main board in a Croson Grip, very strong in the mirror, lets you go split second to hit your opponent's Omniscience. From there, new deck, Dimir Dredge. It was actually, this popped up, I was commenting on one of the timeless Reddit posts about the deck, and I will say, like, even in speaking with the folks there, this isn't the most optimized version. It's at 77% win rate, but the core of the deck, it's kind of two combos in one. So no lands, module, dual face lands, so you got the Belcher plan, but you also have Baldur's Trade Spy. So this was a deck that's kind of popped off in various formats in the past. Oops all spells, meaning that you don't have lands in your deck. So when you cast Spy, you self-mill your whole deck. Since your lands are all spells, you'll have an effect like Darksteel Colossus, Progenitus, or Worldspine Worm. Worldspine Worm is a trigger when it goes into your graveyard. The others just shuffle in, so they could be interrupted with like Surgical. But these shuffle effects basically mean that you get an extra turn in terms of drawing the card. I would say if you're going to play this type of deck, play two of them. I've been playing this deck in Historic, Golgari version. I split between one Progenitus and one Worldspine Worm. I just don't want to spend a Mythic on Darksteel, but the reason being, if they Surgical, then at least you have two different types. And it also helps if you draw. You're not playing Brainstorm. You're not playing really looting effects in this deck. So if you draw this, then you can't actually win. But what you do is when you mill over your deck, you mill over your Creeping Chills, which get back your Silver Smoke Ghouls, which get back your Prized Amalgam, and your Narcomoeba as well. So some things with this deck here: Dark Ritual, obviously really strong. Mana Drain's quite difficult to cast. You only have 12 if you pinch blue sources, so kind of getting it on curve might be a little difficult. You can play Spell Spear, Pierce, Swan Song. Typically in these Belcher decks, you might play Pact of Negation, but you actually don't want Pact in this deck because your main win condition is the attack step. Solar, Transformer, whatever the 2-mana energy artifact is better than Cold Steel Heart. Some other cards in the deck, Haunted Dead. You can mill it over, and then from your graveyard, you can discard it. Like when you draw your Dark Steel or whatever your other card is, you can discard it to basically get an extra turn. There's also Driven Despair for the Despair part, which gets you all your creatures to get Menace and force your opponent to discard. That's kind of the deck there. Mardu Energy, 73%, so pretty stock. See 2 Thoughtseize, 2 Swords, 3 Static Prison. Static Prison is one of the big cards in the Show and Tell matchup to hit your opponent's Omniscience in play. Bombardment, Johnny, just kind of the usual suspects. 1 Nightmare in here, full set of Orcish Bowmasters, and then the Juggernaut Peddlers. Seeing 2 Regavan, which I think Regavan as a 2 of is fine. Some of the lists I've seen like an energy go up to 4 at times, which I think like into Osset's Pride, so many kind of random creatures that like Bowmaster, it's a little bit of a liability. Could certainly run away with games, but at least in the Boros version, you have Arena of Glory to haste it out as well, so there's some utility there. Obviously, you could dash it, but it comes back to hand. So nothing like super special with this version. We have Dimir Frog, 69%. So this is your Tameo version. Psychic Frog, Bowmaster, not the Mistman control version that just plays Bowmaster as its win condition. Lurrus Companion here, Baubles, Thoughtseize, no Inquisition. You do have Nethergoyf, 3 Fatal Push, 3 Extraction for the best of 1 meta is a nice call, given that there are quite a few combo decks. And then Stifle, just trigger ability, can play nicely. You can kind of break your opponent's lands with like a fetch land. Any sort of triggered ability on the stack, you can kind of get that as well. If your opponent tries to flip in a Johnny, you can stifle the Johnny trigger, whatever it may be, stifle the cat coming into play kind of effect. Mana Drains, Demonic Tutor helps you find key pieces. Interesting seeing a couple Verges in here. Just another way to have untapped duel that doesn't hurt you, with very easy in this format to get your requisite lands to turn it on. All right, so we got Mardu Phoenix, 68%. So this is the Phoenix Vampire scam deck, as with all decks. 15 lands. They went up in lands. In this deck with like 13 lands before. So a couple ways to get Phoenix on turn 1. Dark Ritual into Buried Alive. Put your Phoenix into the graveyard. Cast Surgical. Sometimes you'll see the Strike It Rich in here. This version doesn't have that, but you have like Looting that sets you up. You have the Reanimate, Sorin, Saint Alenda, or Vein Ripper, so cheat out your vampires. Grief in here as a way to eat out your opponent's hand. Thoughtseize for hand tape. Path to Peril's a sweeper for the aggressive decks. And then Demonic Tutor. So that's kind of the lines. You also could just like Reanimate. You can like Thoughtseize yourself, put one of these into play, into the graveyard, reanimate it that way as well. Then have Mono Blue Affinity, 67%. So we got these lands in this form of Seed of Cyanod, as well as Vault of Whisper, artifact lands that reduce the affinity cost, making things like Thought Monitor cost as little as 1 mana, same with Thoughtcast. So that it also reduces the cost of Myr Enforcer, Frogmere Enforcer, so just a bunch of big creatures, Frogmite, which is egregious that this is a mythic card. So like in Historic, like I was playing a lot of lists, also play Tameo, since it makes tokens, the draw flips it fairly easy. But this one's playing a little bit bigger on curve. You have Nettlecyst that scales, Simulacrum makes you tokens with casting all these big things. You have Kappa that can get you value, Bauble, Ornithopter with the Retrofitter, Aether Spell Bomb, Springleaf Drum. It's pretty easy in this deck too, just given the format it's going to have a lot of like graveyard decks. You can play Tormod Script. It's relatively low cost. It's 0 mana artifact that helps you with affinity anyways. It's a free cast off like the Kappa. You're generally churning through your deck pretty fast. It also can enable potentially some turn 1 Metallic Rebukes, which can also help in that effect. So something to kind of consider from there. Then go to Boros Energy, 65%. So this should be the Jengantha companion. So add a Jengantha to your deck. But Flage is in here. You'll sometimes see Fable, Seasoned Pyromancer. Since this was banned in Modern, they've switched to like Pyro or to Seasoned Pyromancer, depending on where you want to go. There's probably more Bowmaster in this format than in Modern. So you kind of trimming it down. Amped Raptor hits you everything in the deck except the Flages. So you have your Aether Hubs in here. Arena Glory can haste out your Flage. But this version here, Static Prisons, like I mentioned, one more copy of Ragavan, but you also have the Lightning Bolt as more cheap removal in this version. And then lastly, we have Spy, Reanimator, Self-Mill, Oracle deck. 60% win rate. So we see the Progenitus as the shuffle card. So this deck here is got the same kind of mill yourself over package. You have Dark Ritual that works with Spy. You have Once Upon a Time is an interesting card too, just being free cast in here. You have the Buried Alive Phoenix line that also can get you Phoenixes back. So that's another effect there. So you can play the Phoenix game. You're not playing the full Dredge. You can win on turn 1, I believe, with this deck. So Grief, sacrifice Grief, get 4 mana, cast Spy, mill yourself over, either have Noxious Revival in your hand or Reanimate in your hand, cast Thassa's Oracle, and then win that way there. So some interesting lines there, but you're basically going to win through getting the Phoenix out early or through Thassa Oracle through Reanimate style effects. So those require a few more cards in hand, where the other version just dumps your hand and then all the creatures come back that way there. So this doesn't require an attack step technically. The other one typically will require an attack step. Don't pull off the belt. That's it for the week. Not like I said, the energy decks taking up a big portion, show and tell, stuff like that. Hopefully we get some exciting special guest cards in the new set to kind of shake up the format a bit. But we'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there.